We're here at Games Exchange in Kitchener, Ontario, and I'm here with Steve, the owner of the store.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Pretty good. And Steve has a whole bunch of really cool things to show us, so let's take a look. When I was a kid, the video game portable of choice was the Game Boy. This one here, this big gray brick. And it was really fun. It had a ton of really awesome and fun games to play. And let me tell you, this thing had an accessory pack that was released called the Handy Boy that came out from a company called STD. Seriously. Now STD released this Handy Boy pack, and I remember a lot of my friends having these. Now it's been years, I haven't seen one boxed, but this thing's actually pretty cool. See, the original Game Boy only had a mono speaker, so what these guys did was they actually built something that basically allowed you to have stereo speakers on the front of the Game Boy, which you can see right here. Then on top of that, this also had a magnification glass that would pretty much go over top of the existing screen and make the screen just kind of a little better, easier to see really. And then on top of that, there was a light system that was included on it that would allow you to light the screen up so you could play it in the darkness. And on top of that, they also included these little button things so you could make the buttons and D-pad turn into a joystick. This was a really cool pack to have, and I remember a lot of kids having it. So if you still have one of those old Game Boys and you want to play them in a very different way, I recommend trying out the Handy Boy. It's kind of interesting, and it's definitely worth it just for the speakers alone. Now we all know that the Wii is pretty much the kind of godfather of motion-based controls in video games, but they weren't the first ones. Some other people tried it earlier on. Some were more successful than others, and here's one of the massive unsuccessful ones. This is Batter Up. It was from Sports Sciences, a company that I'd never really heard of before this thing came out. And Batter Up is a very strange device simply because it's just a bat that you use to play mostly baseball games. You can play anything with this if you wanted to, but I would recommend you just stick with baseball. Essentially, what's going on here is there's a little ball bearing inside the middle of the baseball bat, and when you swing it, the ball bearing hits the end of the baseball bat and pushes a button. It's a very basic motion control system, but it is technically motion control. It allows you to play games more realistically, I guess, than what you couldn't do with a joystick. Really, I would prefer using a gamepad or something. This is just kind of a novelty item at best. The Super Nintendo is a great system with a bunch of really cool arcade-like inspired games. And to play arcade games, you probably want something like this, which is pretty much an arcade stick. But this one has a couple of really interesting special features. Now, this is the Quickshot Conqueror 2, and it's got some programmable buttons. Now, while a lot of arcade sticks out there may have programmable buttons, this one has a battery backup, so it will actually save your program set right inside the controller, which is really neat. Then on top of that, it's got one additional special feature, which is kind of awesome. So right here, this little dial can actually be turned, and you can basically set the buttons in different orientations so that you can basically set them up in a better and easier way for you to push them. This is really neat, incredibly uncommon, and it's something that I recommend you try out because if you're a fan of arcade games on the SNES, this one right here may be the best way to play them. Nintendo released a product called the e-reader for the Game Boy Advance. Now I know a lot of you out there probably already know what this is. Essentially, it's a little card reader that will allow you to actually input games through a card system and play them on your Game Boy Advance. This is not that common anymore. They're getting a little bit harder to find, especially new and packaged, but there's something else that Nintendo released that I think is really cool and sort of forgotten. This is Mario Party for the e-reader, and it's essentially a board game that you could play without the cards and with the cards by using a Game Boy Advance and an e-reader. It's kind of a neat little oddity, and really, if you're a fan of Mario Party or any kind of board game, this is a cool little oddity, and I think as time goes on, you're probably going to be hard-pressed to find a lot of these out in the wild. So, if you ever see one of these, give it a shot. Play it with the e-reader, play it without. It might be pretty cool, especially if you're a fan of Mario Party.